Joshua Bell is one of the world's most celebrated violinists. He's the music director of the world-renowned Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. He's played for three American presidents, recorded more than 40 albums. He's won Grammys, Mercurys, Gramophones, and Opus Classic awards. And he's been around for nearly 45 years now, since his debut in 1981, age 14, with the Philadelphia Orchestra. Back in January 2007, the Washington Post asked Bell to busk anonymously during the morning rush hour at the L'Enfant Plaza metro station in Washington. He stood there for 43 minutes and played six classical pieces on his 1713 Stradivarius, an instrument he reportedly bought for about 3 million quid. During those 43 minutes, 1,079 people walked past him. 27 gave money. Only 7 stopped to listen. He earned $52.17, of which $20 came from the only person who recognized him. Now, not bad for a busker to be fair, but nowhere near what Bell would normally earn for an hour's performance. For example, he's performing in August this year, 2026, at the Kusavetsky Music Shed in Lenox, Massachusetts. Tickets range from $26 sitting on the lawn to $174 for seats inside the shed. The lawn can sit up to 15,000 people and the indoor shed about 5,000. Let's just say he'll earn a little bit more per hour for this coming gig than he did in that metro station. Now, fast forward 7 years from his busking debut to 2014. Once again, Bell performed at Washington Station. This time, thousands stopped to hear him play. The difference between those two events? Well, in 2007, no one expected Bell to be there. In 2014, the Washington Post advertised his presence and set him on a stage in the main hall. Drawing people's attention to him changed what people saw. It changed their perception of what was happening and of what they were hearing. And in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winning economist, describes this phenomenon as what you see is all there is. You know, how many times have you read and reread an important email checking for typos only to notice some glaring errors when you receive a reply? Don't worry, it's not just you. It's all of us because we see what we expect to see, not what we've written. And if you think that's never happened to you, then either someone proofreads all your emails before you send them or you've not checked closely enough. This lack of sight, if you will, has significant consequences for making decisions and solving problems. If all that you see is all there is, how do you know you're not missing something crucial and you're answering the right question? Imagine I said to you, I'm thinking of hiring Jane and wondering if she'll be a good team member. She's caring, considerate, and compassionate. What's your immediate gut feeling? For most people, it's yes, it sounds like she should be a good team player. What though if the next words were, but she comes across as a bit impulsive and a bit irresponsible? What's your opinion now? What's your view now? Our natural tendency is to jump to conclusions based on the information in front of us. Sometimes that's okay because the patterns are obvious and the answer clear cut. But often it's not okay, and what you see is all there is leads to serious errors in judgment. We make poor decisions that cost money, decisions that annoy our teams and our clients, decisions that embarrass us when somebody points out something we've missed that would have changed our decision. Kahneman, in Thinking Fast and Slow, says information that is not retrieved, even unconsciously, from memory might as well not exist. For me, what's worse is when there's information there that we've not bothered to look for or ignored because it doesn't fit with our assumptions or desired answers. So how do we avoid the perils of what you see is all there is and get more information to help us? Prepare yourself for a statement of the blindingly obvious. We need to see more. If what you see is all there is, then by definition, we need to see more to help us take better decisions. The easy way to see more is to involve other people, provided, of course, they're able to give you an independent view and they have a different perspective from you. And by the way, that last bit, that different perspective, is much more important and valuable than most people realize. So, best place to start is with the team. Involve the people in your business. You'll be helping them develop and you'll be getting better buy-in to implement the decision. Be careful how you describe the problem to them so you do not inadvertently direct their answers and create groupthink, or worse, solve the wrong problem. Many revolutions of the earth ago, when I hadn't long been an MD, I had one of the most mortifying meetings in my corporate life. We were having an issue in the business that was really frustrating me. So I brought the team in, I sat them down, I told them what I thought the issue was, what I thought was causing it, and what I thought needed to happen to fix it. Because, hey, back then, that's what I thought an MD did. Thankfully, well, I can now say thankfully, but thankfully, one of the team had the guts to speak up and say, Richard, I don't think that's the issue. I think the real issue is this. Which started a conversation with the team that demonstrated how badly I'd misread and misunderstood the situation. Anyhow, everyone debated it while I wanted the earth to swallow me up, and they came up with ideas how to fix it, which they then went off and implemented. After that, I started to take a different approach. Before the meeting, if for a big important decision, before the meeting, I'd describe what I'd observed, keeping to the facts, and ask them to prepare by thinking about what they believed was the underlying issue, what facts they needed to bring, gathering supporting data and writing down their summary of the issue. I'd start the meeting by getting the team to briefly share what they'd written and not allow questions or interruptions. Then the debate began, and I made sure to get everyone's input, get all the perspectives, the differences and dissensions out and discussed. And after we'd finished debating, if the answer wasn't obvious or there was no clear consensus, I'd ask people to write down what they believed the solution to be and then ask each person to share. From that, I'd decide what we were going to do. I call it my anti-confirmation bias approach. It works for one-to-one coaching on small problems through to big decisions and solving chunky problems. And it's a brilliant process for getting 100% commitment to decisions and everyone pulling together, even when the decision isn't the one that people proposed. The challenge comes though if someone in your business is the problem or the decision that directly affects them. What then? Um, and now for another blindingly obvious, widely avoided solution. Go out and seek external help. You can work with a coach or mentor to help find different perspectives, or you can join a mastermind group. I mean, you can organize a mastermind group yourself, or you can join a professionally facilitated group. They work particularly well when the members or peers are completely independent and from different sectors. And shameless plug time, I run mastermind groups. If you want to find out more, drop me an email to richard@valuegrowthcatalyst.com. Anyway, when running these problem solving sessions in my mastermind groups, I make it a 5-stage process. One, we dig deeply into the issue to ensure we understand and address the causes, not the symptoms. We reframe the decision to make sure we're solving the real problem. Then and only then do we develop options and ideas for solving the problem. And that third bit is without the person who brought the issue. So they listen, they do not contribute in part 3. Part 4, each member of the group describes their preferred solution and why. And then and only then does the decision maker get the feedback, what they've heard and what they're going to do with the problem. And over 16 years of doing this, I do not recall a single session where the members' view of the problem or decision wasn't changed by the group's different perspectives. Which leads me seamlessly to Swiss chocolate and couriers. There's a little Swiss town near the Matterhorn called Bern, which has long been associated with bears. Since the 13th century, Bern's seal and coats of arms have incorporated a bear. I'm sure you've heard of Toblerone chocolate. It was created in 1908 in Bern, and the brand logo was designed to link it to the birthplace. So you can see the logo, the little mountain. The mountain's pretty obvious, isn't it? But do you see the bear? No? It's in this. I'll put a bigger picture up for you now. Look closely at the mountain. There's a little light coloured bear in the middle of it. And now you've seen it, you won't be able to unsee it. Sharing my view of the Toblerone logo has changed your perspective forever. You're welcome. It's like the arrow in FedEx. You've seen that though, haven't you? It's in the gap between the E and the X at the end. What if you can't get an external perspective? How do you do this yourself? What approach do you take? And the one I recommend is simple but requires patience, discipline, and curiosity. You need to create the habit of identifying and challenging your own assumptions, of becoming more curious and open minded, of asking questions to get a better understanding. Questions like what do we, what do they mean by, what might possibly go wrong here? What's the elephant in the room I'm ignoring? What advice would I give someone else if they had this issue? What would need to be true for this decision to be wrong? It's almost like being a kid again, asking lots of questions and not worrying about feeling foolish. Yeah, and apply the process to common phrases and assumptions too. If we go back to the question about will Jane be a good team member, you probably guessed there was a twist coming about Jane's personality. But I'm willing to take a small wager that you assumed you knew what I meant by a good team member. You did, didn't you? But if you checked what I meant by good team member before we started talking about Jane, then you might have found my definition was very different from yours. And you'd have been better able to help me make a more informed decision about Jane's fit. Now, this may all seem obvious, but if you're applying the principles now as you're listening to this, watching this, you should be saying to yourself, that all sounds great, Richard. I can see how challenging assumptions, getting external perspectives, and being more curious will help me see more and make better decisions. But what are the downsides? Well, the main downside from taking this see more approach is that it slows down decision making. It takes time we often feel we don't have because the team need answers or because you're frustrated at the lack of progress and want to kick some arse. But what happens if you don't take the time and make a poor decision? Imagine a key team member has left. Your project manager say you're desperate to get that role filled because you're having to stand in. It's consuming you. It's taking your time, distracting you, preventing you from doing the high value activities only you can do. So you get some interviews lined up. And the last person you meet seems the ideal candidate. Their CV looks the part. They look the part. They talk the part. You're impressed. The other candidates don't seem as good by comparison. And because what you see in the interview is all there is, you offer them the job. Sometimes that's a good choice, but more often it isn't. It usually takes a few months before you start to get a bad feeling about the person, maybe 6 months or more to fix the problem you've created by hiring the wrong person. If you'd taken the time to stand back and see more by looking for opinions from the team, by having a more challenging recruitment process, and by detailed reference checks, you probably wouldn't have hired them. Yes, doing that might have added weeks to your decision process, or even months because you needed to see more candidates. But you'd have saved at least 6 months of personal pain, avoided the wasted salary and rehiring costs, the lost opportunity costs, and the negative impact on team productivity and morale. And again, if you're thinking about this and being curious, you should be asking yourself, why can it take us months to accept there's a problem with our new game-changing recruit? Because we focus on what we expect and want to see. We focus on what the recruiter is doing right. We're looking for signs that we made a good decision. Likewise, we downplay the negatives and shrug off our concerns until it becomes obvious that they're not up to the job and we must ask them to leave. And the team's response is usually, thank feck, what took you so long? Because they see the issues and experience the pain long before you do. This is a form of confirmation bias, a condition we all suffer from. One which is particularly prevalent and dangerous during decision making and problem solving. When presented with a problem, we naturally jump to an intuitive solution, one that just feels right. Sometimes we test our answer by doing some research, maybe Googling it, maybe asking someone in the team. Unfortunately, confirmation bias leads us to subconsciously seek data compatible with our beliefs, data to support our answer. We look for validation we're right, and we lead the team with our questions, restricting their independence. We pick the bits from the Google search and the team's answers that supports our direction, our decision. But that's the wrong way to go about it. We need to test our answers by trying to prove them wrong, like scientists testing their hypotheses. Barney Klein in the Harvard Business Review in 2007 proposed a technique called the pre-mortem to help us avoid that bias. And how it works is you gather a group of people knowledgeable about the issue together. It could be your team, your mentor, your mastermind group, or better, all three of them in different meetings. Then ask them this. Imagine it's this time next year. We implemented this solution to this problem. It was a complete bloody disaster. Take 10 minutes to write down a brief history of the disaster and what caused it. Once that's done and everybody's shared, you can then work out ways of mitigating what caused the problem or even design a better solution. Anyhow, this approach, it overcomes groupthink. It gives people permission to speak up without worrying about offending anyone, and it gets them thinking creatively and freely. I highly recommend you try it. You will uncover much that you have missed. Sometimes it'll change the decision. More often it doesn't, but it enables you to develop contingency plans to reduce the risk of that decision going wrong. Now that we've identified how to see more and avoid the two most common pitfalls, it's time to wrap up. What we see is all there is hampers our ability to make good decisions and leads us to jump to conclusions. We don't see the whole picture. We miss or ignore information vital to the decision. But the more we see, the more robust our decision becomes and the better the outcome. And as I've said earlier, and I'll repeat again, you can do that through four mechanisms. One, involve people from your team, especially those with different perspectives. Two, work with a coach or a mentor. Three, join a peer to peer mastermind group. Four, challenge your assumptions by asking yourself more questions. Whatever approach you take, there are two pitfalls to avoid. Sorry. The pressure for a quick answer shortens and damages our decision making process, and we have an inherent tendency to look for supporting data rather than data that proves us wrong. The first pitfall can be avoided by having a process for making decisions and sticking to it, like my mastermind group process. The second, by gaining external perspective, seeking data that disproves our hypothesis and carrying out a pre-mortem on important decisions. One of our biggest, what you see is all there is, blind spots as business owners is our perception of how well our business is performing and how valuable it is. So if you want an independent, see more view of your business, I'd recommend taking my value architecture diagnostic. It's free, take you about 8 minutes to complete, and you'll get a 22-page report showing you the hidden weaknesses in your business, how they're affecting your profitability and valuation. And you can find that at valuegrowthcatalyst.com/diagnostic. Anyhow, one final thought for you. If you feel 100% confident your decision is correct, you are absolutely 100% wrong. Seriously though, if you feel 100% confident in your decision, I beg you to stop and reevaluate because you've almost certainly missed something. And the reason I say that is over the years, as I've learned more about how to make better decisions, become better at applying that knowledge, I've become less confident in the correctness of my decisions. The pros and cons I see have increased massively, and the risks have become much more pronounced. It doesn't stop me making decisions, and it doesn't always mean I come up with the best solution or make the right decision. But I'd say my success rate is much better than before, and it's greatly reduced the risk of things going wrong, and of us being better able to cope if things do go awry. Anyhow, good luck with seeing more. Please do let me know how you get on.